I always believed my life was a dream come true. I was born into the Cory family, one of the oldest and most respected names in the country. My grandfather, Sir Daniel Cory, built a great empire with his honesty and wisdom. My father, Mr. Leonard Cory, continued that legacy with pride. People often said that being a Cory was both an honor and a heavy crown. Before I tell you how I got my revenge, hit that like button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. When I met Aaron, I thought I had found someone who loved me for who I was, not for the name I carried. He was kind, humble, and spoke to me like I was the only person in the world. I still remember the first time he told me, "You make simple things feel like gold." At that moment, I felt lucky. I didn't know that Aaron already knew who I was long before we met. He had read about my family, our company, and the inheritance I would one day receive. But I was blind to all of that. To me, he was love. To him, I was an opportunity. Back then, I didn't see the difference. I only saw a man who made my world feel safe. Our home always looked perfect from the outside. It was a warm yellow house with white curtains and a garden filled with my favorite lilies. Every morning, Aaron kissed my forehead before leaving for work. He would say, "I'll be back soon, my love," and I would smile, believing every word. To others, we were the picture of happiness. My friends often said, "You're lucky, Samarth. Aaron truly loves you." I believed them, too. I cooked his favorite meals, waited for his calls, and never questioned his business trips. He said he was working hard to give us a better future. Sometimes, though, I noticed things that didn't make sense. He seemed to know about my family's companies more than I ever told him. Once, he even mentioned my grandfather's old partners, names I had never spoken aloud. When I asked how he knew, he laughed softly and said, "You must have mentioned them before." I brushed it off. Love makes you trust even when something feels strange. At night, when we sat together, our smiles filled the house. But behind his eyes, I sometimes saw something else, like a secret he was guarding carefully. And I had no idea it was about to destroy everything. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when I found it. Aaron had gone on another short business trip, and I decided to clean his study. The room smelled of his cologne and the papers he always left scattered around. I was dusting the drawer of his desk when I saw an envelope tucked beneath a stack of folders. Enjoy our revenge stories? Subscribe, like and drop your location in the comments. At first, I thought it was just another bill. But when I opened it, my hands froze. It was a school fee receipt addressed to Mr. Aaron Cory, and beside his name was written Mrs. Anika Cory. For a moment, my mind went blank. My eyes kept reading the name again and again. Anika Cory? Who was she? Why was her name beside my husband's? I felt a strange coldness spread through my body. I tried to tell myself it was a mistake, maybe some error in the mail. But deep inside, something whispered that it wasn't. I placed the envelope back carefully and closed the drawer as if nothing had happened. Yet my heart beat so loud, I thought the walls could hear it. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept seeing that name written beside his, and it haunted me till morning. The next morning, I sat across from Aaron at breakfast. He looked calm, reading the newspaper as if the world had no secrets. I stirred my tea slowly, trying to find the right words. My heart was still heavy from the letter I had found. "Aaron," I said softly, "have you ever known anyone named Anika?" He didn't even look up. He laughed, that same easy laugh that used to make me feel safe. "Anika? No, I don't think so." "Why?" I smiled weakly. "Oh, I just came across the name somewhere." He shrugged. "Must be a common name." Then he kissed my forehead and left for work, just like every other day. But I noticed something I had never seen before. His hands trembled when he picked up his car keys. When the door closed, I sat in silence, staring at my untouched tea. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to tell him I found that envelope. But fear held me back. I didn't want to believe that the man I loved could lie to me. So, I pretended nothing was wrong. Yet, deep down, I knew everything was about to change. For the next few days, I tried to act normal. I smiled, cooked dinner, and listened to Aaron talk about his business meetings. But inside me, something had changed. Every time he spoke, I heard a small voice in my head asking, "Is he telling the truth?" At night, when he fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I remembered my grandfather's words from long ago, "Greed wears a kind face, Samarth. Be careful who you trust." I had always thought he was talking about business. I never imagined he could have been warning me about my own husband. Aaron started leaving earlier for work and coming home later. His phone was always locked, and when I asked why, he smiled and said, "Work secrets, love." But I knew better. The whisper of doubt grew louder each day. One evening, I stood by the window watching the rain. The water ran down the glass like the tears I refused to cry. I told myself I would find the truth, no matter how much it hurt. Because love without honesty isn't love at all, it's just a beautiful lie. I began to watch more closely. Every time Aaron said he had a business trip, I took note of the date, the time, and the place he claimed to go. I didn't tell anyone, not even my parents. I needed to be sure before I broke their hearts. One night, while he was showering, his phone buzzed on the table. My hands shook as I picked it up. The message on the screen said, "See you tomorrow, love. The kids can't wait." My heart nearly stopped. The number wasn't saved, and I couldn't see a name. I took a photo of the message and placed the phone back before he came out. The next morning, I followed him when he left for work. My heart pounded so hard that I could barely breathe. He didn't go toward his office. Instead, he drove to a quiet neighborhood I had never seen before. From a distance, I watched him walk to a small white house and knock on the door. A woman opened it. 2 children ran out and hugged him, shouting, "Papa." I felt my world fall apart. The shadows I had been following led me straight to the truth. I sat in my car, frozen, as I watched the scene before me. Aaron lifted one of the children into his arms and kissed the woman on her forehead. They looked like a perfect family, his real family. Tears blurred my vision, but I forced myself to stay calm. I took a photo of the house, the number on the gate, and Aaron holding the child. My hands trembled so badly that the phone almost slipped. After a few minutes, he went inside, laughing as the door closed behind him. I waited a little longer, then started the car and drove away slowly, trying not to fall apart on the steering wheel. When I reached home, I searched for the address online. It was listed under the name Samartha Cory. The same name from the letter. My heart ached as I realized everything was connected, the trips, the calls, the lies. Aaron wasn't just cheating. He was living 2 lives. I printed the photos and placed them in a small box. I didn't know what I would do yet, but I knew one thing for sure. The truth was no longer hiding. And neither would I. The next morning, I couldn't look at Aaron the same way. He smiled, kissed my cheek, and asked if I wanted breakfast, but I felt nothing. I could no longer see the man I once trusted. I spent hours thinking. How long had this been going on? How many lies had he told me? Every trip, every late night, every secret phone call. It all made sense now. The whispers of doubt from before had turned into a roaring truth. I remembered my family's teachings: honesty is the foundation of power, and deception destroys it. Aaron had come into my life not for love, but because of my family's wealth. My grandfather's empire, my father's pride, my own place in the Cory legacy, it was all his target. I clenched my fists. The man I had loved had used me. My heart ached, but beneath the pain, a spark ignited. I would not be a victim. I would not let him ruin everything my family had built. I made a promise to myself that day. Aaron had underestimated me. He thought I was naive, gentle, and powerless. He was wrong. And soon, he would pay for every lie. That evening, I sat in my room, staring at the photos I had taken of Aaron's secret family. The anger inside me burned hotter than I had ever felt. I knew I couldn't confront him blindly. This had to be done carefully. I spread the papers across my desk, photos, addresses, timelines of his trips. Every lie, every hidden detail, every stolen moment he had taken from me would be used. I needed a plan. My grandfather had always told me, power belongs to those who prepare. I had been raised to be smart, patient, and strategic. Now was the time to use those lessons. I thought about the Cory family reputation. Aaron had assumed he could manipulate me because he underestimated my strength and the power of my family name. He was wrong. I made a decision. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't beg. I would act, carefully, deliberately, and with precision. He had come into my life for the Cory fortune, but I would show him that he could never take it, not without consequences. By the time the sun rose the next day, I had a plan forming in my mind. One that Aaron would never see coming. That evening, I waited for Aaron to return from his business trip. My hands were steady, my mind sharp. I had rehearsed every word I would say, every question I would ask. When he walked in, smiling like nothing had changed, I stood tall. "Aaron," I said calmly, "we need to talk." He raised an eyebrow. "About what?" he asked, trying to hide his nervousness. I stepped closer, holding the photos in my hand. "About the family you've been hiding from me. The children, Anika, all of it. I know everything." For the first time, I saw panic in his eyes. He opened his mouth to lie, but I interrupted, "Don't. I've seen the evidence. You came into my life for my family, for our wealth. Not for me." Silence filled the room. The man I had once loved looked smaller somehow, exposed. "You don't understand," he began, but I cut him off. "No, Aaron. I understand perfectly. You underestimated me. You thought I would stay blind. But I see you now, every lie, every secret, every hidden step." For the first time, I felt in control. The anger that had burned inside me transformed into power. And I was ready to use it. After the confrontation, I knew I needed more than just photos. Aaron was clever, and one weak piece of proof wouldn't be enough. I had to gather everything: emails, bank statements, phone records, anything that tied him to his other family. I started with his office at home. While he slept, I carefully went through his desk drawers, finding receipts and letters that linked him to Anika and the children. My heart pounded, but I remained calm. Every discovery fueled my determination. Next, I checked his laptop. Passwords, files, hidden folders, I found them all. Plans for trips to see them, bills for school fees, even messages between him and Anika. Each document was a piece of the puzzle that exposed the truth. I labeled everything and stored it in a secure folder. This was no longer just about anger, it was about justice. Aaron had tried to steal my life, my love, and my family's legacy. By the end of the week, I had a complete dossier. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal documented and undeniable. I looked at the evidence and whispered to myself, "Now, it's my turn to act." Isha came to my house that night. She is my oldest friend and the only person I trusted with the truth. I showed her the dossier. Her face went pale, but she did not gasp or cry. She only said, "We will fix this." Slowly. Smartly. We made a list. First, protect the money and papers. I copied bank statements and wrote down account numbers. I drove to Grandpa Daniel's old lawyer and asked questions without saying Aaron's name. The lawyer did not know everything, but he explained how to keep accounts safe and how inherited property could be protected. Second, we planned how to tell Anika. I did not want the other woman to be crushed by surprise. She deserved the truth, and she deserved to know gently. Isha offered to send a safe message with proof. Third, we would not run to my father yet. If Aaron suspected his plan had failed, he might hide or destroy more evidence. We needed time. Finally, we set a date. I would release the facts in steps, first the proof to Anika, then the proof to Aaron's company, then to my family if needed. That night, I slept with the dossier under my pillow, feeling both frightened and fierce. The plan felt right. I felt ready. The next morning, I sent the first message to Anika. I didn't write angrily or with accusation. I wrote carefully, truthfully, and with respect. I included a photo of Aaron with her children and a note explaining what I had discovered. I waited. Hours passed. I kept checking my phone, heart hammering with every minute. Finally, a reply came. Her message was short: "I had my doubts. Thank you for telling me. I need time." I felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. I had expected anger, disbelief, maybe even threats, but not gratitude. Anika's response gave me confidence. I knew I was doing the right thing. It was not revenge for cruelty or greed, it was justice for the life Aaron had hidden behind lies. Isha and I spent the day refining the plan. The next step was delivering the evidence to Aaron himself, but only after Anika was prepared. We discussed every possibility: denial, anger, begging, or even a counterattack. By evening, I felt a calm determination settle over me. Aaron thought he had control, but the truth had shifted the balance. For the first time, I felt like the one holding all the power. And soon, he would see it too. That night, I waited for Aaron to return home. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I stayed calm. Calmness, I realized, could be scarier than anger. When he walked in, he smiled as if nothing had changed. "Samarth, you look tired," he said casually. I held up my phone. "Aaron, do you remember this?" I showed him the message from Anika. His smile faltered. His eyes widened, just slightly, but it was enough. That's not what it looks like," he stammered. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I said firmly. "You've been living two lives. You married me for my family's wealth. Every lie, every secret, every hidden moment, you thought I wouldn't find out." He tried to speak, but I continued. "I've gathered all the evidence. Photos, messages, bank statements, everything. Anika knows. Your children know. And soon, everyone who matters will know." For the first time, Aaron looked small. No charm, no lies could protect him now. The man who had seemed so confident, so untouchable, was shaking. I took a deep breath. "Aaron, you underestimated me. That was your first mistake." The next morning, I made my move. I sent a carefully written letter to Aaron's company, detailing his lies and showing proof of his double life. Along with it, I included photos and messages. The office was stunned. His colleagues, who had admired him, suddenly saw him for what he was: a fraud. Word spread quickly. Aaron's name was whispered in shocked tones, and his reputation began to crumble before he even realized it. Meanwhile, Anika called. Her voice was shaky but strong. "Samarth, thank you for telling me. I didn't know where to start, but now I see clearly." Her gratitude gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. Not revenge, not cruelty, but justice. Aaron tried to defend himself, but no one would listen. Even his closest friends began questioning him. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal was now exposed. I watched it unfold calmly. No shouting, no confrontation, just the truth. Aaron's carefully constructed world was unraveling. And I stood at the center, not as a victim, but as the one who held the power. Finally, I whispered to myself, "This is what happens when you underestimate Samartha Cory." Once Aaron's lies were exposed, it was time to face my own family. I knew it wouldn't be easy. They had always believed in his charm and ignored my instincts. I invited my parents to the Cory estate. When they arrived, I didn't greet them warmly. Instead, I showed them the evidence, the photos, the messages, the documents. My father's face turned pale. Samarth, this can't be true, he stammered. I'm afraid it is, father, I said firmly. Aaron married me not for love, but because of our family fortune. He has another family in another state. My mother's hands trembled as she read the messages. How could he, she whispered. I looked at them both steadily. For years, I trusted him. For years, I stayed loyal. But I also learned to protect myself. And now you see what I've been saying all along. You ignored my intuition, and now the truth is undeniable. They remained silent, ashamed. I didn't need their forgiveness. What mattered was that the Cory name, and our legacy, was safe. For the first time, I felt fully in control. I had faced the lies, exposed the truth, and no one could take my dignity away again. Aaron's world began to crumble completely. His phone rang endlessly with angry calls from business partners, and emails piled up from colleagues demanding explanations. The double life he had carefully hidden was now public knowledge. He tried to charm and manipulate, but no one believed him. Even his closest friends turned away. The man who had once smiled confidently at every room he entered now slouched in defeat. I watched silently from my study window as reporters and curious onlookers gathered outside. The headlines would spread tomorrow: Aaron exposed, lies, deception, and a secret family. I felt no glee, only a calm sense of justice. Later that evening, he came to me, desperate. Samarth, please. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. You came into my life for my family's wealth, for power. You thought you could deceive me, cheat me, and walk away unscathed. You were wrong. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Fear of losing control, fear of exposure, fear of losing the very life he had tried to steal. I warned you once, I said quietly. Never underestimate Samartha Cory. Aaron left my house that night a broken man, powerless, exposed, and finally facing the consequences of his lies. With Aaron's deception exposed, I finally felt free. I no longer had to hide my thoughts or tiptoe around his lies. The burden of secrecy was gone, replaced by clarity and control. I started rebuilding my life on my own terms. I returned to my work with renewed energy, taking over the Cory estate management and ensuring the family legacy was secure. Every decision I made reflected who I truly was: strong, clever, and unafraid. I also reached out to friends I had neglected during the marriage. I rekindled connections, shared my story carefully, and found support in those who had always believed in me. Even simple things felt different now. I walked taller, spoke with confidence, and smiled more freely. The man who tried to steal my happiness was gone, and with him, the fear that had shadowed my life. Most importantly, I no longer questioned my worth. The Cory name carried responsibility, yes, but also the freedom to shape my own destiny. I had faced lies, betrayal, and deceit, and emerged stronger. For the first time in years, I felt fully alive. My life, my choices, and my happiness were mine alone. And nothing, not even Aaron, could take that away. After Aaron's fall, I realized I couldn't manage everything alone. The Cory empire was vast, and while I had the courage, I needed allies I could trust. I reached out to Isha first. She had stood by me from the beginning, never doubting my instincts. Together, we began reviewing every contract, investment, and property. Isha's keen eye caught details I had missed, and her advice was invaluable. Next, I approached some longtime employees of the family business. Many had grown wary of Aaron's charm and welcomed the chance to support me. They respected diligence and honesty, qualities I intended to lead with. I also began mentoring a few young women from the community. I wanted them to know that even in a world full of deceit, integrity and patience could prevail. With every meeting, I felt more empowered. The Cory name wasn't just about wealth, it was about responsibility, wisdom, and influence. Aaron tried to take it all, but I had reclaimed it with courage, strategy, and a strong team by my side. For the first time, I understood that true power wasn't in money alone, it was in trust, loyalty, and the people who stood with you. Even though Aaron was gone and my life was taking shape, I couldn't ignore the past completely. Memories of betrayal and deceit lingered, reminding me of how fragile trust could be. I decided it was time to face it all, every conversation, every doubt, every moment I had allowed fear to guide me. I returned to my old journals, reading the words I had written in pain and frustration. Some pages made me cry, others made me laugh. I realized how far I had come. Next, I confronted my own feelings about my family. My parents had ignored warnings and trusted the wrong man. It hurt, deeply, but I no longer wanted revenge against them. Instead, I wanted clarity. I spoke to them honestly, explaining how their blindness had affected me. They listened, ashamed, but I kept my boundaries. Forgiveness was not a gift I would give lightly. Then, I visited places Aaron had frequented with me, retracing my steps to reclaim them as my own. The restaurants, the gardens, the roads, these places no longer carried his lies. They belonged to me, to my memories, and to my truth. Facing the past wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I was no longer a victim. I was Samartha Cory, strong, wise, and in control of her life. Aaron thought his fall was complete. He believed exposure was enough punishment. But I knew there was one last move he couldn't recover from. I organized a press release, exposing every detail of his deception, his secret family, the lies he told me, the manipulation at work. I included verified documents and photos, leaving nothing open to denial. The media caught it immediately. Headlines screamed his betrayal. Friends and colleagues were in shock, and his reputation, already fragile, crumbled further. Aaron called me, pleading. "Samartha, please, you don't have to do this." I stayed calm. "This isn't about revenge, Aaron. It's about truth. You thought you could steal from me, lie to me, and escape unscathed. You were wrong. Every choice has consequences." I watched as the world finally saw him for who he really was. The arrogant man who once thought he could manipulate everyone now had no allies, no charm, no escape. By the end of the week, Aaron had resigned from his positions, left the city, and disappeared from everyone's lives. I sat in my office, feeling a strange peace. The final strike was done, not out of hatred, but to reclaim what was rightfully mine. With Aaron gone and the truth fully revealed, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The weight of lies, betrayal, and fear was lifted. For the first time in years, I could think about what I wanted, not what others expected of me. I reorganized my schedule, balancing work, family responsibilities, and personal growth. I enrolled in advanced business courses to strengthen my skills, determined to lead the Cory legacy with intelligence and integrity. I also began exploring hobbies I had set aside: painting, horseback riding, and writing. These small joys reminded me who I was beyond the Cory name and beyond the shadow of betrayal. Old friends and allies returned, inspired by my courage. I built a team not just of skill, but of trust and loyalty. Every project we undertook reflected not just profit, but ethics and respect for people. Even my relationship with my parents began to shift. They didn't fully understand my strength yet, but they started to see that I wasn't just their daughter, I was a force to be reckoned with. For the first time, I felt free, not because the past was erased, but because I had faced it, conquered it, and stepped into a life I could call my own. As I focused on rebuilding my life, I realized that love had always been complicated for me. After Aaron's betrayal, I had sworn off trusting anyone so deeply again. But life has a way of testing even the strongest vows. During a charity event for underprivileged children, I met Julian, a kind, honest man who worked quietly behind the scenes. He didn't seek attention or status. Instead, he listened, he helped, and he respected the people around him. Unlike Aaron, Julian's intentions were pure. He treated me as Samartha Cory the person, not Samartha Cory the heiress. I found myself laughing freely, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in years. We spent months together, building trust slowly. He didn't rush me, didn't pressure me, and never tried to take advantage of my life or wealth. For the first time, I realized that love could be safe, gentle, and respectful. I allowed myself to hope again, not blindly, but wisely. I knew the past could hurt me, but it didn't have to define my future. With Julian by my side, I began to believe that happiness, honesty, and love could coexist with strength and ambition. Finally, I felt ready to open my heart, not to someone chasing wealth, but someone deserving of my trust. With Aaron gone and my life gradually rebuilt, I turned my full attention to the Cory legacy. The family empire wasn't just wealth, it was a responsibility, a symbol of the values my grandfather Sir Daniel Cory had fought to uphold. I reorganized the company, implementing new policies that prioritized honesty, fairness, and transparency. Employees responded positively, and the workplace atmosphere transformed. It was no longer about fear or favoritism, but respect and collaboration. I also established a foundation in my grandfather's name, supporting education for young girls and underprivileged families. Giving back reminded me that power and influence carried a duty beyond profit. My parents observed quietly, realizing that their daughter, once underestimated, was now unstoppable. They began to respect my decisions, even if grudgingly. I reflected on everything I had overcome: betrayal, lies, and manipulation. Each challenge had shaped me into a stronger, wiser, and more determined woman. The Cory legacy was no longer just my inheritance, it was my creation. I wasn't just preserving the family name, I was enhancing it, leaving a mark that could not be erased. For the first time, I truly felt the weight and pride of my family's history. And I knew that the future was finally in safe hands, my own. The past was finally behind me. Aaron's betrayal, my parents' doubts, and the years of careful manipulation, they were all memories now, lessons I had survived. I had claimed my life, my wealth, and my destiny. I stood on the balcony of the Cory estate, looking out at the city lights. The empire my grandfather built, my father maintained, and now I led, it all stretched before me. But it wasn't the buildings, the money, or the power that mattered. It was the freedom to choose who I wanted to be. Julian joined me, holding my hand without words. I realized that trust and love were no longer threats, they were rewards for my courage. Together, we envisioned new ventures, not for fame or greed, but for creating something meaningful. I was no longer the naive girl who had believed every smile. I was Samartha Cory, wise, strong, and unstoppable. Every betrayal had been a step toward this moment. Every doubt had fueled my determination. For the first time, I felt completely free, free from lies, free from manipulation, free to triumph on my own terms. My past had tried to hold me back, but my future belonged entirely to me. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.